Happy holidays, gang, and welcome once again to the Duct Tape Studios. I'm Jeff McAleer, your host, here at the Gaming Gang channel. Thanks for joining me once again. Today, I am going to share a first look and page through of the Pathfinder 2nd Edition Remastered Player Core from my friends over at Paizo Inc. The lead designers on this book are Logan Bonner, Jason Bullman, Liz Lydell, Stephen Radney McFarland, and Mark Siefter. The 462-page hardcover is available now, carries an MSRP of $59.99, or you can grab just the PDF alone for $19.99. All that said, let's swing on over to the other camera, because here I've got the Player Core. Few things to mention before we dive in. First of all, my friends over at Paizo Inc. were kind enough to provide me with this review copy, but neither I nor anyone else affiliated with the Gaming Gang has received any other sort of compensation for me to share this coverage with you. These days, it's very, very important that you know that. We're also not going to look at each and every page of the Player Core. In fact, truth be told, we'll probably look at fewer pages than I normally would share with a first look at a tabletop role-playing game release, because Paizo didn't really want content creators to share too much video of the books, mainly, at least in my opinion, to keep pirates at bay. What I will be doing is I will be leaving my hands on various parts of the pages as we take a look through. We're not going to look once again at each and every page. So lots of luck to anybody out there. If you're thinking of pirating something from this video, you're barking up the wrong tree. I can tell you that for certain. I am also going to be giving away a copy of the Player Core as well as the GM Core to a single lucky viewer. And I will tell you how to get into the running. And of course, you will need to check out this video as well as my first look at the GM Core, which is coming in just a few days, in order to get into the running. And I will be announcing the winner on my 1,000th live show. Yes, that's right, 1,000 episodes of the Gaming Gang Dispatch, which will be airing on December 19th. Lastly, this is not a review. It's important to keep that in mind. I have had the PDFs for both the Player Core and the GM Core for quite a while, but I have actually resisted the temptation to read too deeply into them because I always like being surprised when I'm doing a first look video. So keep that in mind. I know a little bit about the Remastered Project releases, but I don't know all about every single change, every little tweak. I will discuss some, but for the most part, all this is brand new to me. And I'm very excited to finally have an opportunity to dive on into this book. So let's start doing that right now. Let's take a look at the back here. Forge your legend. A world of adventure awaits, but it needs you to be the hero of the story. Take on the role of a daring adventurer with Pathfinder Player Core. This tome contains everything you need to create a player character, outfitting them with mighty weapons and powerful spells, providing all the necessary tools to survive in a world filled with deadly monsters, nefarious villains, and fabulous treasures. First page of your amazing adventure starts here. All righty. Oh, nice gatefold here. That's pretty cool. Pretty cool splash page. First thing I will mention, paper stock feels all right. Probably around the thickness that we see with Wizards of the Coast D&D releases, probably in that ballpark, I would say. So here we've got our lead designers. We have loads of additional writers. We have loads of artists as well. So I'm not going to read through all of them because, for one, I would guarantee to butcher at least half of their names. It would probably take 5 or 10 minutes to read all these people too. But I do want to give them credit where credit is due. So we've got our table of contents. We'll have an introduction. Looks like we'll be getting a bit of a background into the world of Golarion. Then we get into our ancestries and backgrounds, our classes. I believe we have 8 classes. There are some ancestries that are not going to be present that were in the original 2nd edition core book. There's, I believe, a couple of classes that are not in this from the 2nd edition core book as well. One being one of my favorites, the champion, a la the paladin. We'll have to wait until Player Core 2 to arrive. Now, there are 2 core books that are out right now. Obviously enough, we're taking a look at the Player Core. Then we also have the GM Core. Stay tuned. I will have a first look video of that up in a couple of days. And then we have the Monster Core, which I believe the street date is supposed to be March 27th. And then sometime in July, we will see Player Core 2, which will, as far as I understand, have the champion. So I believe that's going to be a Gen Con release. So we've got skills and feats, equipment, spells. Looks like we've got about 100 pages of spells. Then nearly 400 pages in, we are going to get into playing the game. Now, one of the reasons why we do have this remastered project is to make Pathfinder easier for newcomers to wrap their heads around. I'll be the first to point out, a lot of people out there call Pathfinder Mathfinder. Personally, I think it's kind of silly because it isn't as if there's a vast amount of math involved with Pathfinder, especially comparing it to 5th edition Dungeons and Dragons. Yes, granted, there is more, but it's not overwhelming by any stretch of the imagination. So this remastered project, one of the major focuses of that is to make Pathfinder far easier for newcomers to get involved with and wrap their heads around. Something else that is a big deal is that this will no longer be tied into the open game license from Wizards of the Coast. This is now going to be part of the Orc license. So gone are various different references from the Dungeons and Dragons SRD, and those have been wiped clean. So we're going to see some things have been dropped, some things have been renamed, some things have been tweaked. I will say that we will no longer, as far as I understand, have attribute scores. We have attribute modifiers. So gone are the days of the 3 to 18 strength, dexterity, wisdom, intelligence, and so on. What we are now going to see is just the modifiers. So we will have the positive or negative modifiers for those key attributes. So you won't have a strength of 15 anymore. You will have, say, a strength of +1. So making life a bit easier and also allowing for more balanced starting characters, allowing for essentially a point-buy system. So that will be taking place. We also will see alignment go the way of the dodo. So this is something that we're seeing with a lot of fantasy role-playing games as of late. I do understand that the 50th anniversary edition of Dungeons and Dragons will be doing away with alignment. The recent alpha of Tales of the Valiant from Kobold Press has done away with alignment. And here we are seeing Pathfinder with this new remastered project is also going to be doing away with alignment, essentially freeing up players to have far more rounded and, I guess, realistic morals and ethics, and kind of break away from, well, you know, orcs are evil, all orcs are evil, those kind of things. All goblins are evil. Well, obviously enough, all goblins aren't evil anymore because goblins are one of the ancestries you can choose from for your player character. We've got our dwarves, elves, gnomes, goblins, halflings, humans, orcs, and I want to say that we now have Leshy. There we go. We've got the Leshy, and if you are not familiar with what the Leshy are, they are immortal spirits of nature temporarily granted physical form. As guardians and emissaries of the environment, Leshies are born when a skilled druid or other master of primal magic conducts a ritual to create a suitable vessel, and then a spirit chooses that vessel to be their temporary home. Leshies are self-sufficient from the moment the ritual ends, though it isn't uncommon for Leshies to maintain lifelong bonds with their creators. Many Leshies relish the opportunity to interact with the physical world. So let's use the Leshy as an example of an ancestry and what you're going to see in the Remastered Player Core. So it's going to discuss, okay, so why would you want to play this ancestry? If you're looking to have a character who does these things, then yes, that's why you're going to choose that ancestry. We've got different heritages. So one of the biggest selling points, in my opinion, for Pathfinder 2nd Edition, and in turn, the Remastered Project, is the fact that you have such a huge amount of customization with your player characters. I am not aware of any other fantasy role-playing game that brings so much to the table for you to craft a specific sort of player character in a fantasy role-playing game. No two Leshy characters are going to be the same. No two fighter characters are ever going to be the same. And it is something that I absolutely love about Pathfinder 2nd Edition. So some of the heritages, we've got the Cactus Leshy, the Lotus Leshy, the Root Leshy, the Seaweed Leshy. And let's just talk about how they differ. So we're going to get a breakdown. How many hit points will you start off with at first level? What is the size of this creature? What is their movement speed? The boosts that they'll get, the Constitution, Wisdom, and then they get a free boost. Normally, those are going to be +1. So here we'd have Constitution, Wisdom, and then whatever you'd like. You get a free boost. We've got an attribute flaw, which is going to be a -1. That would go to Intelligence. Now, that doesn't mean you have to have a -1 in Intelligence. You could invest points to bring that up to, say, a +1, and then you have the flaw, so you would drop it down to 0. This discussion of languages, some traits, low light vision, and here we have plant nourishment. You gain nourishment in the same way that the plants or fungi that match your body type normally do, through some combination of photosynthesis, absorbing minerals with your roots, or scavenging decaying matter. You typically do not need to pay for food. That's a benefit. Then we'll start getting into ancestry feats, and you'll see that based on the level, you will have the opportunity to choose new feats. Now, keep in mind, you're not going to have all of these feats. Once again, something else that's going to make no two Leshy characters the same. As an example, you'll have feats available at 1st level, 5th level, 9th, 13th, and 17th out of a possible 20 levels. All right, so it looks as if we've got 4 pages devoted to each of these ancestries. Now, we'll also have some other heritages, versatile heritages. So we've got changelings, Nephilim. So here's the changeling, there's the Nephilim. We have a new way of putting together like half elves, half orcs, things like that. It's called mixed ancestry. And essentially, it's, from my understanding, any 2 ancestries you want to utilize, put them together. It's all good. So then we get into our classes, and I do believe we've got 8 classes in the player core. So we've got Bard, Cleric, Druid, Fighter, Ranger, Rogue, Witch, and Wizard. So as I mentioned, unfortunately, there is no champion, but we should see that in Player Core 2. So we're going to get a breakdown of each of the classes, as well as we'll have archetypes, I do believe. So let's just grab one here. Got quite a bit for the cleric. Let's try to find the fighter. Ah, the druid. I always like the second edition Pathfinder artwork. I feel it's a bit more realistic in character design than the first edition of Pathfinder. Not that I really had an issue with first edition Pathfinder. I just didn't see a lot of releases for first edition Pathfinder, but I do definitely like the character designs for second edition far more. Okay, so here we got the fighter. So let's take a look at the fighter. We'll do a little in-depth on this. So we got the key attribute, strength or dexterity. Your hit points, you're going to start off with 10 plus your constitution modifier. So if you have a +1 as your modifier, you're going to add 1 to your hit points. So what do you do during combat encounters, during social encounters, while exploring, during downtime, and some other aspects of the character as well? So you've got your initial proficiencies, perception, saving throws, and we have different levels of saving throws. So you've got skills, attacks, defenses, and what is your class DC? We're going to get a breakdown of some features of the class. We're going to get into feats. We should probably see, there we go. I was going to say, we'll probably see some samples of different sorts of fighters. So here we've got the bully, a dwarven bully. So as you can see, there is a lot going into your player character. So these are all feats for fighters. And once again, you're not going to have all of these feats. So you're custom tailoring the sort of character you want within that class. And of course, we also have archetypes that we're going to be looking at as well. So if you want to play more of an archer sort of character, but you don't necessarily want to be a ranger, then you're looking at the fighter and kind of going through with the archer here. So quite a few pages devoted to each of these classes. Just kind of zip through all of this. I think we get more information about animal companions and familiars too. I think the witch, if I remember correctly, I think the witch is the new class that's been included in the Remastered Player Core, which replaced the champion. That's kind of cool. I like that artwork there. So far, I'm pretty impressed by what we've seen in the Player Core. Now with the GM Core, I think we're looking at a grand total of probably about 800 pages. That's kind of cool. So here we go. Here's companions. All right. So we got animal companions. So you're actually going to level up your animal companions, which is going to come in handy for the druids as well as the rangers out there. Here we go. Here's familiars. That's kind of cute. Then we're going to get into our archetypes. Once again, something else that is going to really customize your player characters. So here there's discussion of multi-classes. So multi-class fighter characters. So it looks like we get that for each of those. Then it looks like we are getting into the skills. Now, as far as skills in Pathfinder 2nd Edition, and no doubt in the Remastered project, they're pretty broad skills. So as an example, religion, society, stealth. But it also allows for your player character to have specialization. What do they specialize as part of the party? So now we've got our feats. So there are general feats, yes. General feats on top of our ancestry feats, as well as our class feats. It's like we've got some gear. various different weapon traits. So it looks like this is adventuring gear here. Potions. All right, so then we get into spells. And as far as I know, I think the Remastered project does away with schools of magic. I think that's been dropped. So remember, I was talking about how we no longer have alignment, but I think what they've done with magic, as far as like divine magic, we now have holy and unholy. That is what I had heard. So we've got just a breakdown of all the different spells here. And we've got primal spells. We've got occult. There's our divine magic. Arcane. And then we're going to get a breakdown of all of the various different spells. Now, if you're not overly familiar with Pathfinder, another big selling point, at least for myself, with second edition and obviously with the Remastered project, is the 3-action economy. And what that is, every player character and NPC and monster, unless otherwise noted, have 3 actions they can use in their turn. So unlike many games where it's like, oh, move and take an action, well, you've got 3 actions. Now, some of your feats, some of your spells are going to take more than a single action. So as you can see here, we're taking a look at some of these spells. So that's 2 little icons. So that means that will take 2 actions to cast. Phantasmal Minion, that's 3 actions to cast. If you wanted to, you could attack 3 times in your turn, keeping in mind that every attack beyond the first is going to get negative modifiers. And unless things have changed as far as your action resolution, a critical is if you roll 10 higher than what you need. And a critical failure is if you roll 10 lower than what you need. So if you're getting all these negative modifiers, it makes it far easier for you to have a critical failure if all you're doing is swinging wildly 3 times. Something that's pretty interesting. But having those 3 actions and all the different things that you can do with those 3 actions, and there's even reactions that you can have that are feats and abilities that you can utilize if certain things trigger it. There's a lot going on, and it really does make combat, it's not just, oh, I swing, I miss, next turn. Oh, I swing, I miss, next turn. There's far more going on than that. And as a game master, it really does allow for the combats to be a lot more interesting, a lot more fun to run, because you're also utilizing your monsters and your NPCs, their actions. So it makes everything just far more unique than just your traditional swing and hit, swing and miss, and so forth. So it looks like now we're going to get into the actual rules of the game, which the reality is there aren't that many rules to this. A lot of it has to do with your D20 and your DC. So your difficulty class. So here we see our proficiency rank. What do you get as a bonus? So with skills, you'll have proficiency ranks. With saving throws, you'll have proficiency ranks. So this is going to tell you what is the bonus that you're going to add to your D20 roll. So you're going to have a DC, a difficulty class, which is going to be a number that you need to meet or exceed in order to succeed. That's pretty much it. So we have the natural 1, natural 20. So natural 20 is, of course, a critical success, and a natural 1 is a critical failure. So going into damage, talking about combat, hit points, healing, and dying, movement, types of movement, cover, flanking. So if you are looking for a fantasy role-playing game that is far more tactical as far as combat goes, Pathfinder 2nd Edition Remastered Project is really something you should be taking a peek at if you're not familiar with Pathfinder as is. So talking about perception and detection. Looks like this is more situational rules here. So you got the downtime mode. So there are 3 modes that make up your adventuring in Pathfinder. So we've got exploration, where you're not really looking at having to track things moment by moment. But we also have, got to remember what it's called. There's the exploration mode. It is, there we go, encounter mode. I was going to say combat mode, but I know it's not what it's called. So we got encounter mode, where you're essentially looking at moment by moment, few seconds at a time. I believe off the top of my head, a round is 6 seconds. Then we get exploration mode, where now it's a few minutes of time pass. And then we get into downtime mode, which could be hours, it could be days, it could be weeks, it could be months. And during a game of Pathfinder, you are going to transition from encounter mode to exploration mode, back to encounter mode, to downtime mode. And then, so it's very easy to segue from each of these modes to the other. So it looks like we're going to wrap up with character sheet. I know we had some appendices. Here's our glossary and index. I guess I jumped past the appendices. There we go. So we got different conditions. So far, just kind of paging through, it looks like the information is presented pretty nicely here. As I had pointed out early on, one of the big points of this new remastered project is to make Pathfinder 2nd Edition far, far easier for newcomers to grasp. Now, I do understand that there are some changes in the rules to like death and dying. I am not aware exactly what they are, but I do understand that a little more lethality going on in this remastered project. So I will be taking a look at that. I will also talk about that when I do my review. So lastly, I do want to point out how you can get into the running to win a copy of the Player Core as well as the GM Core. And I'll make it pretty easy. So all you got to do is like the video, be a subscriber to the channel, and comment both on this video here for the Player Core and my upcoming GM Core video, telling me what you're looking forward to with this new Pathfinder 2nd Edition remastered project. What has sparked your interest about it? And once again, you need to comment on both of those videos, and then I will reveal the winner of both the Player Core and the GM Core on my live show, The Gaming Gang Dispatch, on December 19th, when it kicks off at 7 p.m. Central. All righty, let's swing back over to the other camera. I will have a review of this probably within the next week, week and a half, because I have really been looking forward to receiving these books so I could dive on in to share my review, because I am really, really interested with what this new remastered project brings to the table. So stay tuned and be sure to get involved with that contest. Now, when I do my GM Core video, I will also once again point out how you can get into the running. All right, that is it for this time out. If you like the video, by all means, please give it a quick thumbs up. Subscribe to the Gaming Gang channel if you haven't already, and if you do subscribe, don't forget, ring that bell. It'll not only let you know when I share videos such as this first look, It'll also inform you when my live stream, The Gaming Gang Dispatch, airs Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday evenings at 7 p.m. Central, right here on YouTube. And of course, when you're not watching videos on the Gaming Gang channel, be sure to visit thegaminggang.com for all latest in tabletop gaming news, reviews, and a whole lot more you will not find here on the YouTube channel. You know the drill. Get your geek on at thegaminggang.com. Once again, I'm Jeff McAleer. Happy holidays to all of you out there. And until I see you next time, here's hoping all of you get to enjoy plenty of great gaming with your gang.